And I would often get cast as the other guy, the sidekick. Full Metal Panic, for instance. I wanted to play Sosuke Sagara, but I got cast as Kurtz Weber. But Kurt, you know what? Yeah, in hindsight, Kurtz is 10 times cooler than Sosuke. Kurtz has all this personality, and he's fun, and he's kind of perverted, and he's a jokester, and he's, and he thinks he's a ladies' man, and he's really a jerk. And I mean, Sosuke's just like, it's not a problem. I mean, he's just, but Kurtz has so much more color to him. So even though he's not the lead character, he was much more fun to play. That happened a lot. There was a show I did called Aquarian Age. It was about this band. And the lead guy, I think his name was Kyohei? Let's just say it was Kyohei. I wanted to play Kyohei. He was the head guy of the band. He was the main character of the show. And I was doing pretty good with the audition for Kyohei, until the director said, now read for Shingo real quick. Well, Shingo looked like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Only had this long stringy hair, this goatee and stuff. Well, I did this kind of yeah, man, it's cool. And the director was rolling in the studio. He loved it. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, I just auditioned my way right out of Kyohei. And sure enough, he cast me as Shingo. But I loved it. He's a great character. He's much more fun. If you watch the show, Kyohei, sure, he's got more lines. He's the lead character, but not as much color, not as much fun, personality. He's the angsty kid, And so I've found often that the lead characters aren't always the most interesting characters. So I love getting to play characters that are different in some way like that. Yes?
Was there any difference when you did voice acting for a video game than when you did for anime?
Good question. Very different. Voice acting for video games, often you're not matching flaps, which is always a good thing. We love that. I just did a video game in LA. I can't talk about it, but it's going to be really cool. And I mean, like, there were people in the studio from Disney and like Sony, and we were on the phone line, on a phone patch with the producer in Salt Lake City, and like he was giving his okay on the line and on the lines, and it was a very long process because there's voice acting by consensus, if you know what I mean. Like, everyone's got their own ideas. So that was not very easy in that respect. But it was a really cool game. But the cool thing was, the game hasn't been animated yet, and they had a video camera set up, videotaping me doing the lines that the animators will use when they animate the character. Who knows? He may even look like me. I don't know. But that's a very different recording situation than voice acting for an anime show, where the animation's already done. Also, one thing with video games that's very different from anime is all of the in-game sounds, all of the fighting sounds. That's the part that's not so fun. I mean, some people love those. I mean, I know some people really love them. Me, I like preserving my voice. I like having it the next day. And when you do these video games and you're playing a character, you'll do all the game, like the cut scenes and stuff. But then when you're doing the in-game stuff, literally it's pages, and it'll say short hit, and you have to do 3 of them. Hit! Hit! Ha! Well, there's 3, and they're different, right? Kicked in the stomach. Long pain sound. Short pain sound. Medium pain sound. Frustrated sound. Long frustrated sound. And there's like this, like a chart. And every direction, you have to do 3 of them. Because they have to have some variety, Can't sound the same every time you push the button. That's not funny. That's not fun. So those things are hard. hard on your voice, especially if it's a game like war games and stuff. Steve Bloom, always when I'm talking to him on the phone, you know, a lot of times he gets cast and stuff like that because he's got that real deep resonant voice, and he'll play all these like Sergeant this or that, or you know, I don't know, what are some of the big war games that are out right now, like, I don't know, Band of Brothers or something, I don't know, but these big, you know, World War II, and the whole game is yelling to your, you know, to the other guys in your platoon, you know, and you're storming the beach and you're screaming over gunfire and stuff, and he does all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's really good. It's good that Steve doesn't have to do high like characters, because when you yell, the first thing that goes is your high range. I get really scared when I have to do stuff like that, because if I know that I have to go in and do a character that is a younger, kind of a higher voice, that's the first thing that's gone when you yell and fight. It just cuts it right off, and you get this deep, chesty resonance when you lose your voice. And so it's cool if most of what you do are those deep, low things. But I mean, Steve does a lot of those kind of games. And I'll talk to him sometimes and he'll be like, man, my voice is trashed. I just trashed it doing such and such a game today. They're hard. Video games, that part of video games is really hard. Yeah.
Well, how is like doing like Full Metal Alchemist the game? Is that different from doing it?
Full Metal, of course, you know, Ed's voice is a little higher than mine, my normal speaking voice. And so, you know, you want to hear something interesting too? We recorded the video game, the first video game. We recorded the video game before we even started the series. That was weird, because I didn't even really know the character yet. I had no relationship with the other characters. I didn't know much about the show. But the marketing strategy was, let's get the game ready, so once the show premieres, we can get the game on the market. Well, that means there's a lot of preparation time. You have to get the game recorded and mixed and all the cues and write all the, you know, code and everything. There was a lot of work that goes into making that ready. So we recorded the game before we even recorded the show, and the first one. And so it was interesting. In fact, there are characters in the game that they had to cast, because got to get the game done. And those characters in the show actually changed, because because they needed to make a decision real quick about the characters for the games, but then they had more time to audition and, you know, and make choices for the show. And so some of those characters got changed for the show. I don't know who they were, but I knew that some changes were made. And some of the characters got cast for the game that weren't going to be coming up for a long time in the show. But they went ahead and made decisions, and a lot of those characters, Travis, Roy Mustang, they needed a Roy Mustang for the game. We hadn't even started the show yet, and they hadn't cast Mustang yet, but they needed a Mustang for the game. So Chris Sabat, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Sabat, you guys know as Armstrong and Vegeta, great voice actor. He has a recording studio. He does a lot of game work. He has a studio that he does a lot of game. And his studio actually recorded the first Full Metal game. And Chris Sabat was the one that auditioned and cast Travis to play Mustang, because he needed a Mustang for the game. He's like, we got to have somebody to do Mustang for the game. I mean, the show's months away still. We're not ready to do the show, but we've got to have a Mustang for the game. He was the one that brought Travis in, and they really liked what Travis did, so he ended up being Mustang for the series as well. But it was kind of an interesting flip, you know. The game actually was recorded first because they wanted to have it ready when the show came out. Yes?
How did you feel at your first convention?
My first convention was really quite interesting. I went to, first convention I ever went to was OhioCon in Columbus, Ohio.